Welcome to the SAFeTY Chronicles, exploring how to keep people and pets safe from the cycle of interpersonal violence. I am your host, Allie Phillips, founder and CEO of Sheltering Animals and Families Together, the SAFeTY Program, a nonprofit organization working with domestic violence shelters to eliminate the pet housing barrier to safety. As the founder, I have led the global movement in helping domestic violence shelters create on-site pet housing while elevating the criminal justice response to how animal abuse links to crimes against people. I am a former prosecuting attorney, internationally recognized legal expert and public speaker, award-winning author, and advocate for protecting vulnerable victims. In this podcast, we will explore how and why animals are harmed in the cycle of family violence and the human-animal bond that keeps victims in harm's way with their pets. Guest speakers and I will share strategies for shelters and professionals working to safeguard survivors, why pet-inclusive sheltering is life-saving, and safety tips for those who need help. None of the content will be graphic. If you are in harm's way, please contact your nearest domestic violence shelter or call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the latest episode of the SAFeTY Chronicles podcast. And I've got a treat for us today. So this has been a conversation that I have wanted to have for a while. And it just happened to have been serendipity that Zoe, who she will introduce herself shortly, we were presenting at a conference the other month together. And I'm like, okay, it's long overdue. I need to have Besty BnB on the podcast so that y'all can share about the great work that you are doing. So, Andy, I'm going to kick it off with you to introduce yourself and tell us all about you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Allie. Thanks for having us. My name's Andy Bond. I'm the co-founder of Besty BnB, together with my longtime best friend, Matt Krentz, who is covering some other things for us today. But yeah, I'm just somebody that really has come to this advocacy and kind of a different path a little bit later. This isn't my first career. But it is something that I care very deeply about. It is all of these kind of serendipitous circles within the community of people who are trying to have positive impact for pets and pet owners is very humbling, very inspiring. Allie, I think the first time we connected was back when Matt and I were still in kind of full requirements gathering mode, trying to really understand the breadth and scope of the barriers that pet ownership can create for folks who are in crisis. And so it's just you were tremendously helpful and gracious to us then, and so it's really wonderful to be speaking today.
So what was your prior career incarnation that brought you to create Besty BnB?
Yeah, it's so I'm a recovering attorney. I spent yes, another thing that we that we commiserated on or maybe collaborated in chatting about. But yeah, that I spent most of my private practice career at a wonderful firm, a very large law firm. It's even larger now than it was when I was there. But ultimately, I was just looking to do something that was a little more creative. And I knew kind of the path that I was on at that firm, and I had I had several young kids at home, and I wanted to do something that would afford me a little bit more flexibility to be involved with them, and also just to do something a little more creative, and so that opportunity presented itself, and I actually that's how Matt and I ended up working together. We've been friends since our freshman year at Rockhurst University in Kansas City, Missouri is where we met, and stayed very close and helped support each other in our various walks of life. We never thought we were going to work together in any professional capacity. Matt's background is in film and technology, and he did a lot of really cool things, like working for Robert Redford at the Sundance Institute. He wrote, produced, and shot and directed a feature film that he ended up selling to Warner Brothers. And so, we just tried to support each other in these very distinct walks of life. And then had an opportunity to join a team that was building a very large piece of technology for the entertainment industry. And so I called up Matt and said, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. What do you think?" And he said, "If you're putting a team together, I'm in." So he was living in St. Louis with his wonderful family at the time, and within 3 weeks, they had put their house in St. Louis on the market and moved to Kansas City. And then Matt and I spent 6.5 years helping to build that company before that platform was acquired, and we made the decision to step away and do something else. We just didn't know what something else was. We knew we liked building new things and we liked doing that together, and so we set out to figure out what was next. And then we heard about the barriers that ownership can create for folks in crisis through the lens of domestic violence agencies, and the rest is kind of history from there. I'm happy to jump into that and share more about that journey. But that's ultimately how we got to this point, is we learned of a problem, and we felt compelled to try to help.
I love that. I love that. And before we dive into exactly what Besty BnB is, we got Zoe here. So Zoe, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your background, and then we're going to dive in to the nitty gritty.
Sounds great. Well, Allie, thanks so much for having us. It's wonderful to connect with you again. I really enjoyed presenting with you. I thought that presentation went great. And my background, or I guess first off, I'm Zoe, and I am the Director of Engagement and Program Development with Besty BnB. So I support our agency partners in either creating or expanding pet advocacy programs through the Besty BnB platform. And I do that using my background, which is both in animal welfare and social services. Prior to joining Besty BnB, I worked at a domestic violence agency in Kansas City, one of the largest domestic violence agencies in the state of Missouri. And I managed their pet advocacy program for about 8 years, helping survivors leave abusive relationships while keeping themselves and their pets safe, and then making sure that they had the resources they needed to keeping their pets as lifelong companions. And that model was actually founded on the SAFeTY model. So thanks so much for your work in creating that so that survivors in Kansas City could be safe. And before that, worked in animal welfare in many different roles. Started in adoptions and then moved to intake and veterinary care and animal care. So I've kind of dipped my toe in everything when it comes to taking care of animals and supporting animals through animal shelters. And really love being able to continue that work through Besty BnB on a national scale.
So I love your diverse background, and we actually go back to your time at the domestic violence shelter. That's when we first connected. So I love this next adventure that you're on, and taking all of your knowledge and all of your skills in the domestic violence field to bring it into Besty BnB, plus all your animal protection work. I mean, my goodness, it's a lot. So yeah, what a team you have going there. So let's dive in. So Andy, what is Besty BnB? If somebody has never heard of it, what's your elevator pitch?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the simplest way to describe it comes from our agency partners that we work with, whether they're social services agencies or animal welfare organizations, and they describe us as a confidential, HIPAA-compliant Airbnb for pets. And that's a very good description. We're much more than that. We're a platform, we're a suite of tools to help create pet advocacy where it doesn't exist and enhance it where it does. But at the end of the day, what we've created is the ability for a human social services agency or animal welfare organization, when they are contacted by a person in crisis, to be able to say, yes, we can help you. Come to us, bring your kids, bring your pets, and we will find a temporary spot for them while you're getting help. And so we do that by helping them manage that pet advocacy program, and then connect them with trained, vetted, and loving pet caregiver foster homes in their community, who will open their homes to those pets while the pet owner is receiving services. The pet owner never knows the identity or location of the person that's caring for their pet, and vice versa. That pet caregiver foster home doesn't know the identity or location of that pet owner that's receiving help, and that's for many reasons that I'm happy to dive into. But from HIPAA compliance, regulatory compliance, just safety of all involved, removing any implicit biases that may exist. But the technology also enables that pet owner to stay connected with their pet while they're receiving services. So they're involved in their care through some proprietary technology that we built, so they can get picture and video updates. They can weigh in, if the pet caregiver notices that a cat that they're caring for just all of a sudden isn't eating well. They can reach out to say, hey, is there something that you do in these scenarios if they're not eating, or is that normal behavior, or those sorts of things. So it really does keep that human animal bond intact for that person while they're getting care. And that pet is always their pet. As soon as they're ready, then they are reunited with their pet as they're ready to, once they're finished receiving services.
And what I love about this is, I think to the domestic violence shelters that I talk to, who either just cannot fathom a setup for housing pets on site, or they just need time to do that, but yet they want to help their clients who have pets. And this is the puzzle piece that fits in perfectly with the SAFeTY program. So it's between our two organizations, we basically wrapped around
And
anybody that has a pet.
That's a perfect way to describe it. We want to be that wrapper. We want to be part of those wraparound services. And so if it is an agency, we work in domestic violence agencies specifically, and then I'll certainly let Zoe kind of share some specifics of how we work with agencies. But we do have agency partners at both ends of kind of the pendulum, in their ability to provide their experience in providing pet advocacy. So, folks like, Rose Brooks Center and these wonderful agencies that do have this history of being able to provide that. The platform has tools to help enhance that pet programming, and there's things in there that protect them. It helps with efficiencies. Staff members know if there are co-sheltered pets there, what that pet profile is, what their needs are, what their history are, that sort of thing. All the way to the other end of the pendulum, we've worked with domestic violence agencies who, for a myriad of reasons, were never able to have a pet program in place, and we're never going to be able to have a pet co-shelter. We've heard things of, there's deed restrictions on their land, that they can't change their physical footprint, or the board is concerned about liability issues, or just a lot of reasons that people think it's overwhelming, and this starts that. And so we want to be there to provide services to all of those agencies, regardless of that. And then if we can be that bridge of someone that doesn't have a pet advocacy program now, but can work towards co-sheltering and use our platform to help them get from point A to point B, then there's nothing better than that.
So Zoe, can you talk to us about the organizations that you are working with? Like, do they find you, or do you find them? And can you walk us through that? Because I do have a lot of domestic violence shelters and social service agencies that listen to this podcast, and if they're thinking, hey, I've never heard of this, like what does that look like on your end?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we get outreach from social service agencies almost every single day, if not multiple times a day, through our contact form on our website, or referrals from different agencies who we've worked with in the past. We also offer webinars that people can attend to learn more about Besty BnB, but then also just learn more about the connection between domestic violence and animal abuse, or the human-animal bond, and why providing services to pet owners is so important. So through all of those means, we hear from a lot of folks pretty regularly. And typically what it looks like to partner with Besty BnB is, we set up a meeting where we learn more about the organization and their needs. We share how Besty BnB can be a resource that they provide to their clients, and how it can expand their services. And then we also provide them with a demo of our platform so they can understand how their organization can use Besty BnB, not only to find temporary placement for pets, but also to manage their pet population, as Andy mentioned. And my favorite feature, honestly, because I'm a bit of a data nerd, is the ability to pull reports on how many pets you've provided care to, the number of people you've supported, and specifically for our domestic violence partners, whether or not that pet was harmed by the abuser prior to receiving their support. So this allows our agencies to really be able to connect with the community and share the impact of their work through Besty BnB. Once we create an account with our partners, we work with their team to share with their community about this new resource and about this new work that they're doing, to either solicit donations and expand their services and hopefully gain an additional income for their new program, but then also to onboard new pet caregivers in a new community. One thing that's so great about Besty BnB is that when a community uses it, if I were to sign up as a pet caregiver, I can provide support to multiple organizations. I'm not just limited to one. So I think that's such an important feature for Besty BnB, is that, we're providing a solution not just to one organization, but to any organization that a pet owner might reach out to.
So is this a paid service that a social service or domestic violence agency would put into their budget? How does that work, Andy?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we were very intentional about coming up with a model that was going to work for our agency partners. The platform itself it's a very large piece of technology. It was a very expensive piece of technology to build. We had to raise just over $2.5 million to build the platform to work the way that it needed to work for our agencies. We're very committed to making sure that it was a useful tool and something that they could use right away. And then all of the safety and security features that it also affords. But we wanted to make sure we were helping our agency partners be good stewards of those dollars. So we have a unique model where, when a pet is being boarded with a Besty BnB pet caregiver foster home, there is a technology fee on a per night basis, which is $8 per night. It's not per pet, so we've had multiple bonded pairs of cats come in. We've had a family of 3 brothers and sisters, a pit bull family that came in and were placed with the same pet caregiver, and so it's just $8 per night, which helps us subsidize and offset some of the cost of keeping those pet owners connected with their pet through the technology and those sorts of things. So, a pet caregiver foster home can also, it's 100% up to them if they charge a fee or not. So we do have some pet caregivers who elect to donate their services. Just over 50% of the pet caregivers in our platform donate their services. But others do charge a smaller discounted rate over other types of boarding services, just as a way to help generate income for themselves. We have a lot of survivors who have applied to become Besty BnB pet caregivers and are now in our system, and so that's a way for them to generate some income while also giving back. So but that and if they choose to do that, those folks do keep 100% of the rate that they set. That is not something that Besty BnB takes a percentage of. So the average cost across the platform right now is $13 per night. So it's a pretty substantial savings in terms of getting those pets into a safe home, safe spot, while their owner's getting help and then keeping them connected. So that's kind of on the nightly, and that's only when a pet is actively placed with a Besty BnB pet caregiver. And then there is an annual subscription to access the suite of tools, all of the training, all of the legal protection, all of the, we have unlimited administrator accounts, unlimited client accounts, unlimited pet profiles. So all of those kind of wraparound services. So that number is currently $7,500 on an annual basis. And we have a lot of our agency partners, already had a line item in their budget for pet care, depending on how they had it structured. But if they don't, we know that the need for this and the impact that is needed through our platform is so substantial. And so our commitment is that cost will never be a barrier to an agency utilizing our platform. We know that budget cycles hit at all different sorts of times, and we are just committed to making sure that anyone that wants the platform can get access to it. So if someone reached out to us this afternoon, and said, "Hey, I'm a domestic violence agency located in Massachusetts, and I heard about Besty BnB. I'd like to set up an account." We can go ahead and get that done right away, and then we work with those agencies to find dollars for their pet advocacy program, not just for Besty BnB, and through Zoe's experience in raising funds by running a pet advocacy program. It's something that we're able to share with our partners, because, as Zoe mentioned, once those agencies can tell the community that they are helping pets, that donor engagement, we've seen it broaden, and we've seen it become substantially deeper as well. So, our goal is that agencies, whether it's private donors, public grant dollars, and anything in between, bring in more dollars to their agency than it costs to run their pet advocacy program. And so none of those dollars that we help them go out and secure are restricted for us. Our goal is that they are able to cover their pet advocacy costs, and then the surplus goes into their core mission to just help more survivors, help more people in the community.
That is what I continually tell the domestic violence shelters, is when they start a pet program, whether on-site or off-site housing, it opens up the funding and the donors, because people love to help animals. And so, yeah, thank you for saying that, because I just think these agencies need to hear that often, that this is going to benefit them. So, all right, so let's say I want to become a pet caregiver, that my 3 felines here, my chief feline officers, allow me to be a pet caregiver. So, Zoe, walk me through the process of background check, no background check. Like, do you just take me at my word that I'm a good person? I have a cat unicorn on the wall here. Like, how does that work for somebody who wants to be a pet caregiver?
Sure. Well, the cat unicorn is definitely a great reference. So it gives you a step up for sure. But the process is a little bit more formal than that, which is something that our partners really appreciate, and also takes the responsibility away from them as well. So it adds, it lifts some weight off of their shoulder. But it's a 5-step application process for pet caregivers. They provide us with details of their home environment, and we do make sure that their contact information works, verified their phone number. And then they set their rates and preferences. Are they going to donate their services? Are they going to charge a small fee? What types of animals are they able to provide care for? Share details of their home environment. Then they go through our safety training videos, which share about safely introducing a pet into a new home environment, understanding length of stay when you are supporting a pet owner who is getting back up on their feet. It's not just your average pet sitting gig. This could be, 3 months. It could be 6 months. We're never really sure how long it's going to take. And then also understanding confidentiality is a huge piece. So making sure that they know not to share public information about the pet that they are providing services to. Don't post a picture of this pet to your social media, things like that. Next, they'll provide us with references that speak to their ability to care for animals. And then the final step is a comprehensive background check, which goes all the way down to the municipal level to make sure that we're catching anyone who has a history of animal crimes or human violence. Once that application is done, a Besty BnB staff member reviews each application to either approve or deny it. And it's not just like a pass fail. You know, if we're working with specifically a survivor of domestic violence who is using Besty BnB as a way to give back, but also to gain additional income to maintain financial freedom. If they have, you know, a small like ding on their record, we're not just going to say, no, that person can't become a caregiver, because that ding could very well be related to the trauma that they experienced.
So are there certain states or certain parts of the country where you need more caregivers?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're seeking caregivers nationwide for sure. Every time we launch in a new community, we work with our agency partner to find caregivers in their community, people who are passionate about pets, people who want to support people in accessing services. So we're trying to tap into a couple of different audiences. Specifically, we're looking for pet caregivers right now in the Denver area, in Minneapolis, in Dallas, Kansas City, Oklahoma City. We've got a long list. And we're working on a map that will show kind of and highlight the need of where our partners are.
You know, one of the things that we really like to do, Ellie, and Zoe's done a really great job of spearheading this initiative. When we go into a new community, we often will start immediately working with that agency to start promoting and educating their community of these barriers, of this crisis, and how they can help. And so they kind of get this and make a little competition out of it, where it's like a community challenge. So they're going out and saying, hey, you know, we to get this going, we just need 10 caring members of our community that go through that 5-step process that Zoe mentioned and become approved. And that really, you know, when each agency in a community, it brings 10. Now they can certainly bring more, and we'll get to that point. But really, for an owned pet crisis care safety net pet programming, just 10 individuals that are willing to help the community really does kind of get that ball rolling. And so, you know, we've been very intentional about our rollout and how we've grown, and it has been kind of this kind of bottom up organic growth. And so, you know, until now, what we didn't want to do was go into a community and have, you know, 50 folks sign up as pet caregivers, but not have an agency partner that we're working with yet in that community. So it's been a little bit of a timing, just being intentional about our timing and going in to new communities. And that's all been kind of to lay the groundwork for an initiative that we'll be able to announce very soon, that will allow us to kind of start growing and scaling across the country. And that's an initiative that we call Home Away from Harm, and we're really excited to be able to share that as it kind of comes into focus. But that's really, you know, once we are in that mode where we're scaling and working with organizations at state levels and those sorts of things, where it will really be important to help get the word out in communities across the country of, hey, this is an issue, and this is a great way that you can help care for people and for pets.
So now my wheels are turning here. So, okay, so I'm just going to just randomly, like I don't even have like a coherent thought on this, other than, so I live in Lansing, Michigan, which is the capital of Michigan. Mm-hmm. Do I have a pet-friendly domestic violence shelter here? No, I do not. And it's not for lack of trying. Even our efforts to create a human-animal bond coalition between human agencies and animal agencies was incredibly short-lived, because we have 2 big animal shelters, and then we've got quite a few animal rescue groups, and they are invariably full all year round. So the animal organizations are like, we'd love to help, but, and then the domestic violence shelters have been unwilling or unable to come on board with on-site pet housing. So now I'm starting to think in my mind what I can do with you all to get some pet caregivers here and to help find you, because we have several domestic violence agencies, and to find you at least one that would be a good partner. So I'm going to let my brain whirl around with this. So I'm going to be reaching out about that, because we are the capital of Michigan, and this should be happening here. We need to have better safeguards, and I see it with my friends on Facebook. I have a friend who runs a basically, I'm going to call it an exotic pet store with aquatics and turtles and snakes and everything. And she's constantly asking on Facebook, hey, I got a woman standing right here with a dog who needs a safe place for her dog. And I'm thinking we could actually get something going here with your help, and we could do this in conjunction.
We'd love to explore that. And one of the beauties of the platform itself, and I can let Zoe kind of speak to this coalition building that we've seen have success in other communities, is it's okay to start small, and it's often better to start small. We've gone into communities where there's been, 4 or 5 domestic violence agencies and a couple of mental health providers and 2 animal welfare organizations, and all kind of coming together to launch, a community-driven effort through Besty BnB together. It doesn't have to be that way, and we know that every community is going to need this to get started a little differently. So we were very intentional about making sure we built the platform and our approach to accommodate that. So starting small with one domestic violence agency as a Besty BnB pet caregiver, and then whether it's through an animal welfare organization having its own Besty BnB account, or whether we just start by kind of helping to broker a relationship where that animal welfare organization can help provide, vaccine updates at low or no cost or something like that. It just starts that ball rolling. And as soon as that momentum starts picking up, then all of a sudden, that the success that domestic violence agency can have, even if it's helping just one survivor and one pet access safety, that gets that momentum going. And next thing you know, it's a mental health provider or a substance use treatment facility that's caring for a patient that has also experienced domestic violence. And none of, we know in these, in this work, in this advocacy, that oftentimes these aren't issues that occur on an island, and someone experiencing domestic violence, a survivor might also be experiencing housing insecurity. And so we start building that, and all of a sudden the community is coming together just because that one pioneering agency said, I'm going to set up this account. I'm going to help this first survivor and their pet with one pet caregiver. And now all of a sudden you've taken that first step to create a very powerful community-centric effort.
Absolutely.
I love that. I love that. So Zoe, can you share a success story? I mean, is there one story that you can share about how everything, all the moon and the stars aligned, and a pet owner was able to get to safety or get into housing, and their pet was cared for, and then they were reunited? Do you have any stories that you can share?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so Besty BnB does take confidentiality very seriously. And because we're not the direct service provider, our agency partners are really the ones with the stories to share. But we are able to pull statistics on, the types of pets that were able to be cared for, and do receive kind of that positive feedback of like, wow, it really worked from our agency partners. And so my favorite story is probably the first pets that we ever housed. It was a group of 6 reptiles, which is kind of surprising. We thought it would be a dog or a cat. And one of our domestic violence agency partners reached out and was like, we've got these 6 turtles, and we need a safe place for them to go. And we were like, okay, let's do it. We walked through the process of helping them create pet profiles and their client profiles, and then they found a pet caregiver that was in our network. And the pet caregiver actually was able to create a new habitat for the pets, went out and got a tank and, made sure that they were really well cared for, because the habitat had been destroyed as part of the abuse, unfortunately. And so that's probably one of my favorite stories, is just because it's a little surprising, but also kind of shows just like the dedication of the pet caregivers that are in our network, that they really do go above and beyond to make sure that those pets are cared for, are comfortable, have all of their basic needs met, but then also have, the love and support that they need in order to feel comfortable in a new home environment.
Oh, I love that. I love turtles. So I
Yeah.
love that story. Oh my gosh, that is just awesome.
Yeah.
So Andy, other than someone becoming a Besty BnB, a pet caregiver, are there other ways that people can get involved with the great work that you're doing?
That's another awesome thing about this community of people that advocate for pets and their people. There's certainly no shortage of ways, so we tell people all the time, hey, if they reach out to us, they hear about us through a podcast and say, hey, I heard about you. Are you working with an agency? I'd love to sign up. We can tell them, yes or no, and talk about what that looks like. We also have people that reach out to say, like, I'm in a situation where I am not able, and I'm not ready, to be a pet caregiver foster home right now. But is there a way I can help? And so, and the answer is always yes. It could be something as simple as, if you're able to, to help financially support one of our agency partners in your community, then that's certainly a way that can help. And even if it's not an agency partner of ours yet, if you can find an agency in the social services realm, or an animal welfare organization, and help support them financially to create or enhance pet advocacy programming, we'll help find who that is. If you're not able to do that, a lot of times it's just help us educate more people in your community. So tell your family, tell your friends, hey, this is an issue, and not only is an issue, it's a crisis, and there are people that are not accessing the help that is out there for them because of pet ownership. So tell them about us. Tell them, encourage them to sign up if they're able to be a pet caregiver, or the same advice, or have them tell 10 more friends, or have them, if they're able to financially support. So there's a number of ways to get active, donating hard goods, finding a food pantry, a pet food pantry in your community, and making a donation to them, and say, I hope this can get into the hands of someone that's experiencing crisis, and that this could help them, with their pet and in their situation. So the wonderful thing is, there's many ways to help, and we've found that just the graciousness and the openness and the willingness to help of folks in the communities that we've worked with has really been just awe-inspiring.
And sometimes just sharing a social media post.
Absolutely.
I mean, I can go to your social media, share it on mine, and it's exponential, who it's reaching. So what social media platforms are y'all on?
I'll let Zoe, that's in Zoe's wheelhouse. So I'm going to let her tell about all the wonderful content that she creates.
Well, we're most active on Instagram and Facebook. We do have a TikTok where I share my little videos that I create trying to engage folks, but that's ever growing. And we also have a LinkedIn. So if you'd like to connect with us, you can find us at Besty BnB at those sites. Our Instagram and Facebook is where we share most of our updates and content about how to become a pet caregiver and how to get involved. And as Andy mentioned before, one of the things that we do with our partners is doing a pet caregiver community challenge, where we are asking people to help in one of 3 ways. And one of the ways is truly just sharing a post. It takes minimal effort to share a post to your story, and you're going to get a bunch of views on your story that help us spread the word about this need.
Yeah, because like, I'm always thinking about whether it's on my personal social media or my professional, because I have two businesses. I have an obscene number of social media pages. Yeah, I mean, it's out of control. But I'm always thinking, who's on the other end that's watching this that I may not know that they need help?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people are not necessarily going to raise their hand or go on social media and say, hey, everybody, guess what? I have been a victim of domestic violence and I have a pet and I don't know where to go. Yeah, no, nobody does that. Nobody does that. But when people can share, it goes out there. And then all of a sudden, the person who needs to see it, they see it at the time that they need to see it. And it's like, they don't know what they don't know until they know it. And then when they see it, it's like, oh, there is help.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's
That's
that
a really
idea.
wonderful. Yeah. Go ahead, Zoe. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
You're good. I was just going to say that that's kind of the idea of, I think the old method of providing services is waiting for people to come to the social service provider. And that does happen, obviously, that people are organizations are inundated with requests for support. But what's also so beneficial is meeting the person where they're at and making sure that they know that resources are available. And I think that you probably especially know that the majority of survivors don't know that they're able to find support for their pet. And that extends beyond survivors to people who are facing mental health and substance use crises or homelessness. They don't know that there are resources out there that are dedicated to making sure that their pet is safe so that they can access the services that they need. And so the more that we can share about this, the more that we talk about this, the more people are going to be able to get the support and care that they need.
And Ali, I just really appreciate your perspective on the social media and that messaging that there is someone else out there at the other end of that post, reading that, viewing that video, and sure, like, getting the likes and the shares is important to maintain, to get into the algorithm, to get out to more people. But at the end of the day, that's not why any of us are doing this. It's to help people, and like Zoe said, to meet them where they're at. So having that perspective of like, I'm putting this content together because it is going to help someone access safety. That's what it's all about. So I just think that's refreshing because it's not exactly common. I think it's more common in kind of our our worlds, but certainly in society in large, and not to go down that a different rabbit hole, but but just understanding that the reason that you're creating that message is it's going to reach someone that's going to see it and they are going to get help because of it. It's just the most powerful thing that I can think of for utilizing those platforms. So I just appreciate your perspective on that.
Yeah, and it's really been driven home to me this month as I have been very methodical on the SAFeTY Program's Facebook page and LinkedIn page because it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I have been highlighting the animal aspect of it. And I mean, we are not an organization that works directly with survivors. We work with the domestic violence shelters, and I mean, it's been like an 800% increase to my email box and my inbox on social media of survivors saying, thank you very much. Where is my nearest pet-friendly shelter? And we're not set up for that, but obviously I'm going to send them a link to say, you just got to scroll, look for your state, see which shelter is near you, give them a call. But I mean, over an 800% increase just this month alone by raising that awareness on social media and asking just even my friends. I'm like, just share it. That's it. You don't need to even make commentary. You don't even need to fully understand what my organization does. Just share it. That's it. It'll literally take you 5.3 seconds to share it. And I mean, it's just, it's amazing. It's reaching the people. So yeah. Yeah.
That brings up such a good thought too, is that, Besty BnB is similarly set up where we're not a direct service provider. But we do receive those requests for support regularly, almost every single day. And we're survivors, people who are facing homelessness, any kind of crisis with their pet are needing a safe place for their pet to go. And so when we do receive those support or requests for support, we refer them to one of our agency partners. So as we continue to grow, we'll be able to continue that work as well.
Yeah, and that's so important. So, oh my gosh, this has been phenomenal. And I just cannot thank you enough because Andy, I remember when you, Matt, and I talked. I mean, this was what, 5 years ago? And it
Yeah.
was just like a little bean sprout in your brains where it's like, this is where we want to go, and we don't have all the steps and we haven't fully mapped it out, and to just see from the little bean sprout of, I mean, what you've grown. This is I'm in awe of everything that you're doing and the lives that you're saving, which you may not fully see that. And that's the thing that I always say about this industry is we don't know the lives that we've saved. We just don't. So thank you. I just cannot thank you enough. And I'm so happy to share this with all of my people so that they really understand that, I mean, there is so much help out there. You just need to know about it.
Well, that's very kind of you to say, and you've always had a kind of a special place and Besty BnB's heart, and Matt and myself as well, just because you were so gracious in helping. One of the things that we were we knew that that we needed to understand more in order to build the platform the way it needed to be built, and we just felt a responsibility to approaching it that way, and rather than kind of taking an easier route and building it how we wanted it to work or how we thought it should work, we knew that was going to impede those people getting to safety, and so it's people like you, it's people like Zoe, who helped educate us to not only how the platform needed to work, what we got right, what we needed to keep working on, but really just educating on how to approach this advocacy, and that's helped us get to where we are today. So we can't really thank you enough for being such an early supporter, and whether you knew it or not, your guidance was very helpful. And if nothing else, just telling us we were on the right path. Keep going, keep learning. Don't take any shortcuts. Just do it the right way. So thank you for that, and I'm excited. I hope it's not another 5 years before we get to speak again. If you're ever looking to fill time on your podcast, please let us know. We love talking about this, and the more we talk, the better results there are for people and pets in crisis. So thank you for promoting this. Thank you for always getting out in front of people and doing the work that you do. I can only imagine how, you when you're talking about the number of social media accounts you have with all of the positive work you're doing. I can only imagine what it takes to juggle all that and keep everything up in the air. So just keep up the great work, and if there's anything we can ever do to help support you, or anyone you come across, just know we're here, and we'll find a solution.
Yep, and my wheels are turning on collaborations, and Zoe and I had already talked a little bit, but yeah, my wheels are turning. So I know we will be chatting very soon.
Yeah, likewise. I love it when the wheels start turning, because I'm in the same boat. I think there's going to be a lot of good that we're going to be able to do together. So thanks in advance for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I want to just echo Andy's, thank you of just the incredible work that you've done to create a foundation of support for domestic violence survivors who are who own pets and not willing to leave their pets behind because they want to keep them safe. And, you really have created such a gigantic movement that has grown so significantly. And I just personally thank you for that, because it's also allowed me to follow my passion and grow my career in that way as well.
Oh, I love to hear that, because I mean, who would have thunk it that one day in court almost 30 years ago, I get mad and this idea is born, literally because I'm having a hissy fit in the courtroom trying to help one of my survivors with 2 dogs and a goat, and nobody would help her. So yeah, we can thank me getting mad, because when I get mad, I create programs. And that's kind of my mantra. It's like, don't make me mad, because I don't have anything left on my calendar for yet another program. So it's like,
That's too funny.
let's all do what we need to do.
Yeah. Well, and also like, I feel like I love that story too, because it really recognizes the role that survivors play in this, you know, that these programs would not exist if it wasn't for the courage of survivors who said, I am not going to accept your help unless you also help my pet. So I love this work because it really honors the courage that survivors have in making
Yeah.
sure that they're safe and that their pets are safe.
Oh, for sure. Yes. All right. Well, thank you again. Oh my gosh, I have loved this entire conversation. We will definitely keep the conversation going on our ends here. And yeah, and you know, whoever's listening to this podcast, please share it, because you don't know who it's going to benefit. So just share this, and in the show notes, I'm going to put all your contact information so that people can follow you on social media, go to your website, hopefully sign up and become a pet caregiver, and let's just keep growing this movement. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for
No,
having
likewise, Allie. Thank you very much.
If you are in harm's way and need help, please visit the Pet Inclusive Shelter listing at safetyprogram.org, call your nearest domestic violence shelter, or call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Want to support our efforts and help us keep the Safety Startup Manual free for domestic violence shelters? Consider donating at safetyprogram.org/donate. Your donation saves lives.